Our first tip is pretty obvious, and that is in order to eliminate a card or multiple cards from the deck, you need a combination of 13 points. King itself is worth 13, Queen is worth 12, Ace is worth 1, 12 and 1 is 13. Jack is worth 11 points, Deuce is obviously worth 2 points, 11 plus 2 is 13 as well. And as you can guess, these other combinations, 10, 3, 8, 5, 7, 6, 9, 4, are all equal to 13. Those are the combinations of cards you're going to look for when you're playing this game. Now, also keep in mind that we're doing this with a deck of 52 cards, which means there's 4 of each card in the deck. And this is going to be kind of important when we go forward playing the game, in that some puzzles are not solvable, which we'll see in just a minute. One of the first things I like to do when I'm playing is look at the bottom of the pyramid and see what cards dominate that, and try to figure out if I can figure out a way to solve that combination-wise. So let's say this example right here, there's a lot of queens. We're going to highlight the queens in blue. And the corresponding card that goes with the queen, of course, is the ace. We'll highlight those in green. There's one ace in the deck. And in this case, we got 2 queens on the board. We got 1 queen over here, and we got 1 other queen left in the deck. So the question is, can we solve this specific combination of cards? And of course, the answer is yes. We could take either this queen right here and move it with the ace. We could take this queen and ace and cancel out right here. And then last but not least, the next combination we would not use this ace right here from the deck. We would not want to do that. We have to save this ace right here for this queen right here. Otherwise, we won't be able to solve the puzzle. And, of course, we will play this ace right here with that queen right there. And that would solve for the aces and the queens. The next number I would look at here that we have a lot of are, toward the bottom anyway, are 7s. There's 1, 2, 3 7s, I believe. And the question we have to ask is, can we move those numbers out of the way? And in this case, the answer is going to be yes. You'll notice there's 3 7s here. There's 1 in the deck. And the number that goes with the 7 to solve it is the number 6. And fortunately, there are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 6s in the deck, because if you don't see any 6s on the board there, I don't see any 6s on the board anywhere, which means we're going to have to play the 7 and the 6 to cancel each other out. Now the good news is if there's 4 6s in the deck, there's 3 on the board. If you see a 7, let's say a 7 and a 6, let's say there was a 7 right here and a 6 right here, you could actually play those to cancel out. Normally, you don't want to do that. You want to save those numbers for the corresponding spot on the board. But in this case, you could play a 7 and a 6 because you know there's 4 6s. There's 1 7 and there's 3 on the board. So you could play the 7 and the 6 to cancel each other out, which would be kind of nice. But in most cases, if you see 2 numbers that match up over here, you don't necessarily want to play them. You want to play them to the board because you only have a limited number of combos, 4 for each set. So let's say we could play, one of them could be this 7 and 6, it could be this 6 and 7, you could play that 6 and 7 and that 6 and 7, or however you want to do that, but you want to make sure that you do that to solve for those 2 combos there. Some boards cannot be solved. Why is that? Well, we look at the bottom of the board for clues, or the bottom of the pyramid for clues, that is. Let's take this example right here. We're looking at the aces, of course. And there are 3 aces on the board. And there's going to be 1 ace in the deck. Now, the corresponding card that goes with the ace, obviously, is going to be the queen. So we're going to highlight all the queens here. And as you can see, there are basically four queens. Okay, so we've got to put the ace with the queen to, solve it, right? Well, that's where we run into some issues here. We know there's 1 ace in the deck. So this ace can go with any of these queens. The problem is we have 3 aces down here in the bottom. We've got these 4 queens we've got to move. And as you can see, we can only play this ace with one of the queens. So if we play this ace with this queen, we can't get to the bottom of the pile. Alternatively, if we played this ace with this queen, we still can't work our way down to the bottom of the pile. So this board right here is not going to be able to be solved because of the problems we have with all these aces being loaded on the bottom. And we've only got 1 ace here, we've got 2 queens, we can't work our way down to the pile and remove those cards. When I'm faced with a decision, I typically like to play to the inside, and I typically like to take, let's say, 1 card from the deck and move it with the corresponding card on the board. So let's take, for example, we have this ace and the queen. I'm typically going to play from the inside, and I'm not going to play, let's say this ace with this queen. I'm going to play these 2. And the reason I'm doing that is because if you play it on the inside, you're opening up, we'll highlight this in green here, you're going to open up this jack right here for a decision. And that can be good because let's say later on you get a deuce in the deck, which you will because, there's not a lot of deuces on the board. So let's say you get a deuce in the deck. All right. Well, if we have the deuce in the deck, now we can play the jack right here with the corresponding deuce, which is kind of neat because we could build our way out of the pile. Which leads me to the, repeat of the tip I gave earlier. I generally speaking do not like to play. Let's say I have a jack and a deuce right here. I typically don't like to play this combo unless I know there's nothing else on the board, because I like to save these numbers for when they match up on the board if you can. Doesn't always work that way, but typically I'd like to do that because that improves your odds of solving. And if you're not sure, you can just kind of hold them till later. And then if you cycle through it a second or third time, you can play that combo if you didn't figure out a way to do it on the board. So let's take a look at this example in front of us right here. And notice there are 10s. And of course, there are corresponding 3s. What combination would you play here, assuming that there are no more 10s left in the deck and no more 3s left in the deck? Which 2 would you play? You got 2 choices. You could play this 10 and this 3, or alternatively, you could play this 10 with this 3. Which would you play? if you said that you would play this 3 with this 10, you are correct, because what we're going to do is we would clear this open. If we play this 10, this 3 and this 10 right here, it won't work because this 3 is on top of this 10 in the pile, and we don't want to have it on top of the pile, because if there's no more 3s or 10s left in the deck, we can't solve it and we're stuck. So by playing this 10 with this 3 right here, that opens up this 10 and this 3 to be solved, assuming we can take out a 5 and a 8 later on, because the king will obviously be solved in one move. Alright, let's finish with a brief overview of the tips we've covered today. First off, you want combinations of 13. Remember, there's 4 of each card in the deck. Some boards cannot be solved. Then you look at the bottom of the pyramid to figure that out. Usually try to play to the inside and try to use cards from the pyramid before you use them out of the deck. There's exceptions to that, but you typically want to play to the inside, of course, to be able to open up more possibilities. And of course, try not to leave combinations of 13 on top of each other if possible, meaning you want to be able to solve from side to side on the pyramid and not have combos of 13 that are stuck on top of each other. And that ramps up all the tips that we've covered for today. I'd like to thank you for watching and wish you good luck in your play.